My wife chose faith. Over our daughter, now our family is shattered. What would you do if everything you believed in, everything you built your life around, was suddenly in conflict with the one thing you cherished most, your child? I never thought I'd have to choose between my faith, my marriage, and my daughter. But life doesn't always go the way we plan, and here I am, sharing my story, desperately searching for an answer to a question I never imagined asking. Was I wrong to leave my wife because she refused to let our daughter get an abortion? My name is James, and for nearly 2 decades I was living what I thought was a perfect life. I'm 39 years old, and I've been married to my wife Clarissa for almost 19 years. Clarissa, she was everything I ever wanted in a partner. Strong, principled, deeply committed to our family and our faith. We built our lives together, entwined in the teachings of the Mormon Church. We were going to raise our children under the same values that had shaped us. At least that's what we planned. 14 years ago, we welcomed our baby girl Kate into the world. From the moment she was born, she became our everything. She was our pride and joy, our hope for the future. We poured everything into her, our love, our attention, our beliefs. We wanted her to grow up knowing right from wrong, understanding the importance of family, faith, and community. And for the first 12 years, everything was perfect. Kate was the ideal daughter. She was smart, kind, thoughtful, everything you could want a child to be. She loved going to church, always had a smile on her face, and she was the kind of kid who made you proud just by being herself. But as she got older, things started to change. It wasn't drastic at first, just little things. She began to keep secrets, telling small lies, things we would eventually catch her in. It wasn't anything too serious at the time, just the kind of rebelliousness that comes with being a teenager. But as a parent, you worry. You always worry. At first, I thought we were losing her, losing the daughter we had raised, the daughter we had taught to be honest, to uphold the values we believed in. I tried everything I could think of to help her, to get her back on track. I suggested she talk to the bishop, reminded her that the church was always there for her, that she didn't have to go through these changes alone. Clarissa, on the other hand, took a more hardline approach. She believed in strict discipline, and she thought that would bring Kate back in line. And for a while, it seemed like things were getting better. Kate stopped lying as much, and we started to trust her again. I thought maybe the worst was over. I thought maybe we were getting through to her, that she was finding her way back. But I was wrong. So wrong. It was a quiet evening when everything changed. Kate sat us down for a talk, and there was something about the way she looked at us that sent a chill down my spine. I knew something was wrong. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. Her eyes were red, her hands were trembling, and she could barely get the words out. Then she said it. "Dad, Mum, I'm pregnant." The world seemed to stop. I just sat there staring at her, not knowing what to say, not knowing what to think. My baby, my little girl, was pregnant. She was only 14. I couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't wrap my head around what was happening. But before I could say a word, Clarissa had already started demanding answers. She wanted to know who the father was, where this had come from, how it had happened. Kate broke down in tears. She couldn't speak. She was sobbing so hard that I thought she might not be able to breathe. Clarissa kept pushing, her voice getting louder, harsher. Finally, Kate managed to choke out the truth. It was a boy she had met at church, a boy who had just left on his mission. That was it. That was all she could say before the tears consumed her again. I sat there, in silence, trying to process it all. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of emotions: shock, confusion, anger, fear. How had this happened? How had we let this happen? My mind was racing, but amidst the chaos in my head, one thought kept coming back to me. I need to protect her. I looked at Kate, my heart breaking for her, and in that moment I knew what I had to do. I knew that I had to set everything aside, our religion, our values, everything, and give her the choice that every woman deserves. I had to let her decide what she wanted to do with her own body. I had to give her that freedom. But before I could say anything, Clarissa stepped in. "No," she said, "there will be no abortion. That's not an option." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew Clarissa was a strong woman. I knew she was principled, but I had never seen her like this before. So cold, so unyielding. Kate begged her, pleaded with her, but Clarissa wouldn't budge. She was adamant. Abortion wasn't allowed. It wasn't happening. End of discussion. I watched my daughter, my little girl, break down in front of me, and I felt completely helpless. I wanted to fight for her. I wanted to scream at Clarissa, to make her see sense, but I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. All I could do was watch as my family shattered in front of my eyes. That night, after I made sure Kate was asleep, I went to Clarissa. I had to talk to her. I had to make her understand that we couldn't do this to our daughter. We couldn't force her into something she wasn't ready for, something she didn't want. But Clarissa wouldn't listen. She told me that Kate didn't have a choice. The church was clear. Abortion was a sin. There was nothing more to say. I was going to push harder. I was going to fight for Kate. But Clarissa just turned over and went to sleep as if the conversation was over, as if it didn't matter. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. How had we gotten here? How had our family, our perfect family, fallen apart so quickly? I felt like I was suffocating, trapped in a life I no longer understood. I thought back to all the years we'd spent building this life together, raising Kate, teaching her our values, our beliefs. And now it was all unraveling. Everything we had built was crumbling around us, and I didn't know how to stop it. The next morning I woke up before anyone else. I made breakfast, trying to go through the motions, trying to pretend that everything was normal. But nothing was normal. Nothing would ever be normal again. After Kate left for school, I sat Clarissa down. I had to try one more time. I had to make her see reason. I told her that we couldn't do this to Kate. We couldn't force her into something she didn't want, something she wasn't ready for. I told her that Kate deserved a choice, just like any other woman. She deserved the right to decide what happened to her own body. But Clarissa wouldn't listen. She said there was nothing to discuss. The church was clear, and she wasn't going to go against it. I felt my heart break. I told her that if she couldn't give Kate the option, if she couldn't support our daughter, then we needed to divorce. We couldn't stay married if we were this far apart on something so fundamental. That's when she lost it. Clarissa started screaming at me, throwing things, accusing me of betraying her, betraying our family, our faith. I had never seen her like that before. I didn't even recognize her. She was like a different person, consumed by her anger, by her refusal to compromise. I left that day. I packed a bag, walked out the door and went to stay with my brother. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. I couldn't live with someone who was willing to put her beliefs before our daughter's future. But now I don't know what to do. I'm lost. My family is falling apart and I don't know if I've done the right thing. Was I wrong to leave? Was I wrong to stand up for my daughter, to put her needs before everything else? Was I wrong to choose her future over my marriage? I've been asking myself those questions over and over again, and I still don't have an answer. I never imagined my life would turn out this way. I never thought I would be here, torn between the woman I've loved for nearly 2 decades and the daughter I've sworn to protect. I never thought I would have to choose between my faith, my family, and my own sense of right and wrong. But here I am, standing in the middle of a life I no longer recognize, wondering if I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I know there are people who will judge me, people who will say I've turned my back on everything I believed in, that I've betrayed my faith, my wife, my family, and maybe they're right. Maybe I have. But when I look at my daughter, when I see the pain in her eyes, the fear, the uncertainty, I know that I couldn't have done anything else. Because in the end, what's more important, our beliefs or the people we love? For years, I thought my faith was unshakable. I thought my marriage was indestructible. But now, everything I thought I knew is crumbling around me, and I'm left standing in the ruins trying to figure out where I go from here. I know one thing for sure. I had to stand up for Kate. I had to be her father. I had to protect her, even if it meant going against everything else. Maybe one day, I'll find peace with the choices I've made. Maybe one day, I'll be able to look back and know that I did the right thing. But for now, all I can do is take it one day at a time. Because as much as I've lost, I still have my daughter, and that has to be enough. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Unfolded Stories. Have you ever faced a situation like this? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about family, faith, and the challenges we face in life.